Over the years, I've done a lot of filming with Elliot and Cypography, but when Spooner's vlog came out, Elliot was absolutely furious because it meant A, I couldn't do as much with Cypography as I used to, and B, just generally, Elliot was furious. So when he contacted me recently and said he wanted to do something else, I was obviously bang up for it. I've sort of done bits with Cypography since day one, very proud of that fact. So to get out and do something else was music to my ears, really. But I needed to know what he had in mind. And when he gave me the concept of coming to Linear with the aim, the hope of catching a 40-pounder, which, let's face it, lots of people over the years, hundreds of thousands of people have travelled to Linear to try and do exactly that. But when you bear in mind, I've barely fished up here. I might have done 15 nights over the years across the whole complex. And I thought, you know what? That is right up my street. Linear is well known for getting a bite. You know, you can work hard, you can graft, and you can put fish on the bank. And when you add that little sweetener that there is a good chance of a 40-pounder, that's what's made it one of the very best day ticket complexes in the country. So in all honesty, it was quite a simple yes, and here we are today. Good morning, everybody. You join me on the infamous banks of St John's Lake at Linear Fisheries, and we are here to do, over the course of a few trips, what a lot of you will have travelled here to do yourselves. We're going to try and catch a 40-pounder. Oh, hell. Yeah, settle them in with a joke. I've done very little on St John's over the years. In fact, I've only fished it once for a two-nighter. But obviously, I know lots of people that have fished it before, so I've got always a bit of background info from them. But going through my mind at the minute, I feel like I'm going to be getting free out on a spot at some point over a nice mix of bait. I think that's kind of become the Linear way, if you like. It definitely works up here, but with it being nice and warm like this, zigs are not out of the question either. With this sun beating down, I can't help but think there's going to be fish right up in the water. And the little bit of experience I have got personally from this lake was a few bites on 10-foot zigs. So I'm going to put 3 zigs out to start with, rather than commit to a spot and put bait out. There's nowhere that fish have shown or fish have been fizzing to make me think that is the zone. I just think 3 well-positioned zigs up in the water, see if we can nick a nice early bite before we decide what we're going to do for the main, if you like, the main fishing, the main spot. Seems like a solid plan, doesn't it? What do you reckon? All right, just gonna get 3 zigs tied up, 3 different heights, 3 different colours. I say it to a lot of people that don't get on with zigs. You have got to commit to them sometimes. So rather than, a lot of people might put 1 zig out for a little while, might not do anything for an hour, and it's quickly reeled in and chucked back on the bottom. I think when you're fishing zigs properly and to be effective, you've got to test different depths in the water, different coloured hook baits, different depths, commit all 3 rods to them. And when you find that winning formula, whether you find the right colour, the right depth, whatever it might be, you can make some very, very tricky lakes look remarkably easy. So don't leave home without your zig kit. Now I think about it, I actually caught on 2 different heights. I caught on 8-foot and 10-foot zigs, but the fish were clearly up in the water. I've seen nothing to, I've seen no backs out of the water to suggest they're right up there. So I think I'm going to start with a 10, an 8 and a 6, 3 very different heights, just see if we can nick one. Where was I up to on that? 3. My zigs couldn't really be a lot simpler. It's a bit of foam of various colours. Do like to constantly try different colours to see if there's something that makes a difference. It's a size 8 Kamakura chod hook. When you're fishing so far up in the water, a super sharp hook is absolutely paramount. And then it's a very simple knotless knot, 8-pound cruiser line, and I use that for just about everything. But for those of you that do watch some of the fishing that I do, you'll know that when I'm fishing a zig, I very rarely cast it out without the added attraction of a couple of dendrobinas on. And I'm often asked how you attach them because it is a bit fiddly. So to start with, I take a piece of floss, I actually take a bait needle, pierce it through the top of the foam so that it's hanging out both sides, take 2 dendrobinas, and you thread them sort of concertina style in and out of the worm. So you're essentially threading a worm down onto the bait floss. That gives it the strength it needs to withstand even the longest of casts. Once they're both on, bunch them all up towards the foam, and then it's a series of granny knots getting into position until you're left with what is essentially a little wriggling wormy brain. And just before casting out, I know it sounds horrible, I do just snip them a little bit, let the juices flow, and that extra attraction definitely gets me more bites. It's enough boring you about it. Let's get some out in the water, shall we? Right, that's the first one out. 10-foot zig in position. And if I'm honest, I've put it in the same zone that I caught from when I was here last. So if they're in that spot still from 3 years ago, I'm laughing. Double landing. Well, 3 rods in position always feels good no matter where you are, doesn't it? Getting the rods out. All on zigs, as I've said. I don't really know how long I'm going to fish like this for. It's sort of still very warm, but it is getting very, very cloudy, and knowing the way this summer's going to be torrential rain in about an hour. But I think I'm going to fire the kettle up, have a brew, keep my eye on what's going on, see if anything shows. Hopefully we nick one, and if not, start to think about what we're going to do for the sort of afternoon, evening, night ahead. But for now, we're fishing. This is the first bit I've done on Cypography for quite a long time now. And when you last saw me, it was the Balancing Act series, trying to catch James's from Northwick. And I've had so many messages where people have watched it recently and said, did you catch it? How big was it? And unfortunately, before I got the chance to hold that fish, it went the way that many carp do and unfortunately died. So I haven't been back to Northwick since for obvious reasons, because I've been lucky enough to catch most of the other residents. It was just that one that was the final piece. But you can't catch them all. And if you've got a carp that you like the look of, that you'd really like to get in your album, the only advice I can give is go out and try and catch it now, because none of them last forever. But it brings us nicely onto a new series. We're here at Linear. We're trying to catch a 40-pounder in a few little trips that we're going to do. And we've probably picked a venue on the complex that doesn't actually have loads in. St John's hasn't got lots and lots of 40-pounders, but there are certainly still a few to go at. One I would dearly love to catch, and that is the Box Common. Such a cool carp, been around, well, it seems like it's been around forever. It made an appearance in the underwater films, never got caught, but it certainly fed on the spot. So to cradle that one would be amazing. But over the course of the series, we are going to sort of drop onto some other lakes, probably Brasenose 1, probably Manor as well. But this is the one that we could get on for the opening trip. And who knows, let's see if Lady Luck's smiling on us. Whatever happens, as long as we get a couple of bites, we're going to leave happy. There's a lot of carp on the top now, boys. I might get another zig tied up ready. Well, things got a little bit more exciting. No bites, obviously, but there are now a lot of fish higher up in the water. I can see backs coming out, a few fish rolling out. A bit longer than where I'm fishing and where my water is, but I am going to have a little recast. I'm going to take that 6-footer off. I'm going to get another 10-footer out there, just so I feel like I've got 3 hook baits right up in the right zone. So I'm just getting this one ready with a fresh worm on, get that 6-footer off, get this one out there.
GoPro's still going because he's a cow.
There we go. There's the explosion on the surface, look. That just goes to show the importance of watching what's going on. There's been a lot more fish higher up in the water, so I took the 6-foot zig off. I've put another 10-foot one out, a little bit longer, closer to where they were, and I don't reckon that's been in the water for any more than 15 minutes and we are into our first carp, and I'm about to get stung. It's not very far out now. I don't think it's particularly big, but like I said before, doesn't matter. A lot of people come here and I get lots of questions saying, how do I catch bigger fish? How do I perhaps target a 40 pounder? But it's not something that's ever really entered my head when I'm fishing. I'm a firm believer in being consistent in getting bites. If you can get that bit right, then by law of averages, if there's bigger fish in the lakes that you fish, they will naturally come along. So that I don't go anywhere with, I'm not fishing any differently here, trying to catch a 40 pounder, as if I was coming here just trying to get a bite. There we go, we're off the mark. Now, because I didn't come in necessarily prepared to fish zigs, I haven't got any tied up, so I'm gonna get this unhooked, jab the net in the ground, get another one back out, because once they've drifted over this far, that carp is definitely not out there on his own. So the quicker I can get another one out there, the quicker we might be able to get bite number 2. How's your start, boys? Well, how about that? It ain't the 40 pounder that we're dreaming of catching on this series, but we might well be off the mark with a 30. And when you think there might only be a couple of 40 pounders in here at the minute, we would definitely have taken one of them at the start of the trip. But we're only 2 hours in. Now, if I had 3 rods out on the bottom and I just had a bite, I can tell you now that within 3 minutes, I'd have another rig in position. But like I just said in that chat before, I wasn't ready to fish zigs. I'm very underprepared, but now I've had that one and I've got another one here done, another 10-footer tied up. The next thing I'll do is get a couple more ready, because if one of them others go, it's about making the most of the opportunity when it's in front of you. Like I said, get consistent with bites and big uns look after themselves. So we'll get this one back in the water, then I'll carry on tying. Right, well, let's see what we've got to get the ball rolling. That'll do nicely. That is 33 pound, 2 ounces. I'm taking every ounce. Get in there. Oh yeah. Well, I tell you what, starts don't get much better than that, do they? A pucker mirror, just over 33 pound. And like I said right at the start of this trip, do not leave home without your zig kit. The conditions just lately have been far from ideal for thinking fish are going to be up in the water, but all it takes is a warm day like this. And thanks to being ready to change and ready to do something perhaps that you're not expecting to do, we're off the mark with a 33 pounder. Lovely, lovely stuff. A couple of pickies, I think, then we'll get her back. Mwah. That is literally the perfect start to the new series. Makes you wonder what else the rest of the trip could hold, doesn't it? Thank you. Mwah. This left-hander has been out since we got here. It's on an 8-foot zig, but there's so many fish on the top now. But not only that, they've come a little bit shorter. I've just tied myself up a spare 10-footer. I'm gonna get that on here and fish it right amongst them. Got to make the most of these opportunities. Might have gone a little bit too, oh no, there's some literally heading towards it now. There's a group of fish that have, it's almost like they're making a beeline towards that zig. So the beauty with zigs, it's not like you're fishing over a certain spot, you're just trying to put it into a zone. And if it don't feel right after 20 minutes, half an hour, just crank it in, recast it, get it where you can see them. As it sits at the minute, I can't believe they're all not going. They're all in the right zones. The surface is littered with carp. And in the words of Nick Hellier, if we fell in, they'd probably eat you. Yeah, I'm not getting my second bite yet. Oh, they're so close. I'm just gonna go out and net them. Right, I've reeled one of the zigs in. We've got probably about an hour of daylight left. And I'm gonna put at least 2 rods on the deck tonight. So before I actually start baiting up, I need to find out exactly where they're gonna go. I've wrapped my mark rod up to 100 yards, see what the bottom's like out there, find the best looking spot. There's certainly plenty of carp about. And I'm hoping with the amount of activity they've shown throughout the day, with the odd show here and there drifting around, they're gonna have to drop down tonight to have a little bit of grub. So let's have a look. All hellish gravel. That is nice. And that is just what I want. There is a lot of gravel out there, and I don't really, when there's that much of it, for me, it's not much of a feature. So to find something that is probably either very smooth, firm silt, or possibly clay, when you've got that in an area surrounded by gravel, that is the feature I want. Right, I've got some pretty typical ingredients that I'd take anywhere at this time of year. 10mm cell first of all. Then I've got some tiger nuts. Don't get to use them loads, but on venues that allow their use, I do like to include them in my mix. And then this one, I've got some 10mm halibut pellets. I'm not going to put loads in, literally just a couple of handfuls. I like the fact that they break down at different rates, they let off lots and lots of attraction, but there are a few catfish in here and they can absolutely devour the stuff, so I'm going to keep them to a minimum. And then something that I do not leave home without, and I find myself using it loads, especially at this time of year, sweet corn. Good dollop of that in. Give that a good old mix up. That is a very, very simple mix. I'm going to add some smart liquid in there as well, just so there's plenty of attraction working up and down the water column. And finally, something that can really help kickstart a spot where silverfish aren't a problem. I'm going to put some chopped worm in there as well. Now I'm going to give them a decent hit of bait. There's clearly a lot of fish down this end of the lake. And I want to put a bit of a statement, a good bed of bait. They can get down, feed as a group, create that competition for food. And once I've got 3 rigs among it, when you know there's fish on the spot, it just feels like a matter of time before you get a bite. So probably half of that bucket of bait, I reckon, maybe a little bit more. Get some rods out. I've left it as late as possible to get the rods out for the night. I think I've just got enough time. Going to keep it simple. 3 spinner rigs, all on the same spot. I'm just going to vary the hook baits up. I'll tip one with a bit of worm because I've put worm in the mix. And then a couple of different colours, different flavours. Hopefully we get enough bites that we can ring the changes, and you know, you can move your hook baits over to one particular one that's definitely doing the damage. But until then, we'll keep our options open, a few different ones, see what happens. Oh, we are angling, boys. That's a really pleasing first day. Rods are now set out lovely, but we're going to sleep knowing we've caught a lovely 30-pounder already. I've seen fish behind the spot as I'm getting the rods out. Hopefully, a bit of nighttime action. Bit of a quiet old night. The odd little bleep here and there, but could have literally been anything. Haven't seen anything in front of me this morning. There's quite a few to my right, to be fair. I feel like I'm just on the fringes of where the carp are. When you do these sort of trips on lakes that you don't know that well, you don't really know when the bite times are. If it, you know, Is it a good night water? I haven't got a clue. Should I be expecting bites this time of day? Is it takes in the middle of the day? I know there's a lot of carp in here, which often makes you think that you could get a bite at any time, which is great, but there's still always a certain time of day where you sort of think something should be happening, but I don't know when that is. But with it being this flat calm and with the amount of carp I saw on the surface yesterday, I've got a feeling already that the zigs could be back on soon, and I'll certainly be putting some mixers out as well. I do like a bit of floater fishing. The size of the group I had out in front of me yesterday that were clearly just under the surface, they've got to be up for a floater. Got to be. Now I've just noticed that the fish, they've been sort of well out to my right, but they're gradually drifting over towards me. So with that in mind, I'm just going to put 2 or 3 spods over the spot. I'm sure the bait's still there on the deck, but having a bit of fresh noise, but a bit of fresh smell and attraction up in the water, if they do drift over the top of the spot, it might be enough just to draw them down and start having a feed. Yeah, look, one just behind it. All right, it's really warm again now. Not only does it feel like we're not going to catch off the deck, I've put a few mixers out, and whilst they've not taken them in front of me, where they've drifted, they're definitely eating them over in that corner. But already I'm now seeing backs out of the water, fins flicking. Got to get the zigs back out for now, keep feeding mixers. We're going to make something happen, but it ain't going to be on the bottom. They are absolutely smashing them mixers. Well, I've been feeding mixers on and off for the last couple of hours, and great news, they're taking. Terrible news, the wind's got up and they're all taking over here, and I've made a bit of a schoolboy error. Since we've been here, there's been fish out in that middle zone, out to my right, and I had the opportunity this morning to get into a swim. It's in between a lot of anglers, but it would have put me right on the fish. And I made the silly mistake of choosing to see the sort of a few more hours out on the deck, thinking I might still get a bite. And all that's happened is someone's taken that swim. There's now mixers being taken left, right, and Chelsea in front of them, and they've just cast a controller out. So you've got to, if you're on a busy day ticket water and you see that opportunity to move, sometimes you've just got to bite the bullet and get it done. But not going to lose heart. I've still seen fish long of me. And I still think that late this afternoon, evening, once the wind dies off, I'm sure there'll be a lot more carp back out here again. But it now feels like I'm kind of waiting for that evening period. Could be wrong. We've got zigs right up in the water. Any of them could go at any point. That's the theory. I've got a feeling it's going to be evenings before anything else happens. We'll keep trying though. We will keep trying. Even though things are not going exactly to plan at the minute, we'd obviously love to be getting more bites. It doesn't mean that you just sit there doing nothing. Sometimes you've got to try and make it work. These zigs have been sat out there for a while, so all I'm going to do, bring them in, freshen them up, fresh hook bait, reposition them, and you never know. You might either land in front of the fish, it's been a slightly different zone, and it might be all it needs to nick the next bite. Hook's lovely, bait's decent. That one needs retying, not good enough. Lead might have come off the old lead clip there. The old leg come up then. That's when you know you're lashing, when your leg comes up. Sometimes you come fishing to a lake and things just fall into place really quickly. You pick yourself a spot, you put some bait out, after a couple of hours you get a bite and things steadily build and it's lovely. But that is the dream sort of perfect scenario, and it certainly doesn't happen every time you turn up to every lake. This session in particular is perfect proof of that. I sort of did that. I got here, put some zigs out, caught one, was convinced that through the night by putting a bit of bait out, I'd get a few bites and it would all be lovely, and it just hasn't happened. Not a liner, didn't see carp on the spot. So I've gone back to zigs now and not had anything at all. And you get to the point where you're constantly trying things, you know, changing the height and the depth of your zigs, putting floaters out, topping the baited spot up. You're doing lots of bits throughout the trip to try and make something happen. And as yet, it hasn't worked. And that could be the case across every lake that we fish. Remember, I've got very little personal experience of fishing up here. I'm going to rely on bits that I hear from some of my mates that have spent time up here, and ultimately going with my gut reaction when I'm faced with carp showing or carp not showing in the swim that I've picked to fish. I'm excited about the challenge. I'm excited because whilst the challenge has got to be achievable, which this one definitely is, it also shouldn't be too easy, which this one definitely isn't. Now I thought I was going to be fishing zigs all night tonight, after yesterday catching one on a zig, and then last night and through the period this morning with absolutely nothing happening over bait. I thought zigs are the one. However, not only have I fished all day with all 3 rods on zigs for nothing, but the weather's taken a bit of a turn. The sun's gone in, it's gone very, very cloudy, and all of a sudden it looks like I want to have some rods on the deck. But it's been a couple of things that have happened. I've now got a couple of anglers that have gone into some vacant pegs to my left, but I've also got a few people that were to my right that have moved and left. So just to keep the line pressure down a bit, rather than fishing where I was over bait before, where I'm not even sure if carp have visited or not, I've gone for a new spot, slightly right out of the swim, same sort of ground. I've still found a nice sort of silt leading up to the gravelly areas. So I'm still fishing on the same sort of bottom, but I'm going to start a new spot just out to the right slightly. It just feels like the right thing to do, but rather than put all of my eggs in one basket, I think I'm going to fish 2 over bait and still leave 1 on a zig. Probably the depth all around here is 13 to 14 foot deep, and at night I've caught a lot of fish about 5 foot under the surface. So I'm going to go for an 8 foot zig, see what happens. Just before a couple of rigs go back onto the deck for the first time since this morning, I might as well show you the rigs I'm using. And yeah, I know it's boring, but it's the spinner rig again. Just don't see the reason to use anything else when you've got something that you've got so much faith in. So from the hook bait end, I've got a little trimmed down quad that's been soaked in no-name goo with a little pink corn tipper. I remember watching the underwater DVDs here from years ago and pink was definitely the colour. I've got a crank size 4 hook, little pink kicker, PTFE spinner swivel, 7 inches of 25-pound boom, and then a dark matter anti-tangle sleeve onto a quick change swivel. And then finally, the leg clip system. It's not conventional. I don't really need to lose the leads. There's no snags out there. So I'm actually fishing it as a running leg clip. Fish picks it up, that slides away. They don't know what's happening. We get fish on the bank. Let's get them out there, shall we? But all in all, it's been a bit of a frustrating day. After having one on a zig yesterday, and today having much warmer temperatures at times, I thought it was just a matter of time before one of the zigs bust off. Unfortunately, that couldn't be further from the truth. And I sort of had it planned after catching nothing on the deck overnight that I was going to leave me zigs out for tonight as well, just fish up in the water. I just felt the fish weren't getting down on the bottom, but the weather's changed a bit. We've had a load of cloud come in, and having not had anything on the zigs today, it felt a bit weird then to leave them out all night. So I've spread my bets a little bit. I've moved the rods fished on the bottom, I've moved slightly right. There's quite a few more people on. So I've just moved the rod out to the right, close to where I saw some fish this morning. I'm fishing 2 rods over bait, and I have left 1 zig out, an 8-footer. Not every fish is going to be feeding on the deck, and not every fish is going to be up in the water. Spread your bets, and hopefully we can nick one. We'll see.
Cool story, bro. When's the first cat coming now?
I reckon the first cat, what's the time now, 8:30? Probably just been a real deep sleep. I reckon about midnight, just to destroy us all, and I will wake you both up. Oh, this feels weird. Oh no. Have you got a slightly brighter light you can put on just to attract a few more flies? I'm going to take out my other rods here. I know I am. I ain't even got my glasses on. This is a catfish. Or a little, very little carp. Just feel really erratic head shakes. Look at the flies. Oh, this is definitely a catfish. Look at it. Oh no. Oh, sake.
Like, reel him in after this.
Yeah, we can't do this all night as a joke. Just rack off, guy. Oh my days! As if playing a catfish is not bad enough. Oh no! Has that just dived in between my lines, or has it stayed underneath? Look at that quaid. Don't put the light in my eyes. I knew I was going to catch a catfish. I didn't actually expect it on the zig though. Oh yeah, just put that light on as well, mate. Yeah, great. Yeah, fantastic. I wonder if anyone else has got a head torch you want to put on. Well, that was handy. I don't even want to touch it, I'm just going to let it go. Come on. No! Keep going. Power through, power through, power through. Go on. Go. Right, very much like yesterday morning, it's gone flat calm. I've been up early putting mixers, and there's carp out there taking now. There aren't going to be many chances. It's been a grueler, if I'm honest. 1 bite since we've been here, and there is an outside chance of another one. So a couple more spods of mixers long, get a rod ready. Let's have one. There's going to be times on this challenge where we're faced with a tough situation and a bit of a dilemma. And funnily enough, that's where I'm at now. I think every single swim on the lake is taken. I've not seen any fish directly in front of me for a number of hours now. I've not had a bleep for 24 hours, fishing 2 or 3 different methods, but it's staying focused and knowing that at some point those fish are going to come back. Now, whether it's up early in the morning putting mixers out before anyone else is doing anything, whether it's up early recasting zigs before I feel anyone else is doing the same, I'll be looking for any little thing I can do, working harder than maybe the anglers around me to try and ensure that if there's a chance in front of me, I absolutely make the most of it. It's all about trying to make the most of the opportunity. Even if it doesn't work, we've created this. Putting out mixers early, We've got the fish up on the top feeding. I've now got a rig in position to keep the seagulls at bay. And we've got a chance. People say they're scared of big floats. Why do they try to eat it then? Horrendous flight. Not good enough, that's where it went. Oh no. Told you the flight weren't great on that. You're not helping. Come on. I've always been one for striking, as I see it take my hook bait, but of late, I've done a bit of this where you're fishing at quite long range and you just got to rely on an 80-gram interceptor to do everything for you. As long as your hook is super sharp, touch wood, I've not had a problem doing it. Last couple of years, my fishing's taken on, I suppose, a slightly different route. Monster Carp became just me and Dovey doing it, so that gave us a different dynamic for that type of angling. And I've found myself doing lots more filming than I've probably ever done before, so it's been very difficult to get my teeth into, for want of a better word, a proper syndicate water or a target water, somewhere where you get to spend a lot of time putting pieces of the jigsaw together to try and outwit the one or the few carp that you really want to catch. But that doesn't bother me. If I'm fishing, I'm happy. People often assume that the waters that we get to fish are all, they're all syndicate waters, and that in many cases that lakes are closed for weeks in advance before we turn up to make the fishing absolutely easy. So I think it's important for us to come to places like Linear, a typical day ticket fishery, turn up and try and catch some carp, and that's exactly what we're doing. Right, the floater fishing is proving problematic because the wind keeps getting up, putting adrift on. A fish has just taken another mixer. So whilst I'm not giving up on the mixer fishing, what I am going to do is put a 14-foot zig out there with a little floater hook bait on, so it's at least sat in position. Hopefully that'll do enough. The only thing is, given what's been happening with tangles, trying to cast a 14-foot zig out could end in absolute disaster. I'm excited. Get out, you slag. This I didn't spook one then. Well, it's all I could do. There's fish out there. I've now got a zig amongst them. Feels a little bit last roll of the dice, but at least we're still rolling. Well, we've come to the end of the first part of the challenge. I'm very pleased to be leaving with a 30-pounder, but I'll be the first to hold my hands up and say that I fancied getting a few more bites than just the one. But that's fishing, it doesn't always go to plan. When I leave a trip like this though, I like to feel that, or ask the questions, have I done everything I can to try and get that extra bite? And in this situation, I feel like I have. I've changed spots, I've changed methods from fishing on the deck to zigs, back to the bottom again. I got them going on floaters this morning and didn't quite get the bite, but I can leave you, I feel absolutely shattered, so I know I've worked hard. And like I said, that's fishing. You can't catch a rakeful every time you go. But the next time you see us, we will hopefully be sat on the banks of Manor it will be a lot more autumnal and there is a lot more 40 pounders in that lake. So perhaps part 2 of the challenge will see us succeed. Until then though, be lucky.